Hello, welcome to Principles of Macroeconomics. My name is Paul Johnson and I'm going to be taking us through the course this semester. And I'm going to be providing selected PowerPoint slides to set out the core theoretical ideas that tie the course together. So to begin, we typically assume no prior knowledge of economics at all. So forgive me if this is a repeat for some of you. So in economics, we have certain big ideas that tie the whole thing together. And the first one is incentives matter. That is to say, people are motivated to do things by concerns for their welfare or other reasons. So incentives are the core that ties all of economic theory together. The second idea is that good institutions align self-interest with the social interest. Now, an institution here does not mean a building or an organization. Institution in economics means a set of rules, the rules of the game, the rules of society. So to illustrate, if your society has rule of law, that is to say independent and fair rules, it's a motivation for people to create things. If you build a prosperous farm and you live in a society with rule of law, nobody can take that farm away from you. They can offer to buy it from you, but they can't steal it. So societies with good institutions are prosperous, and a good institution is one that aligns self-interest with the social interest. So the other aspect here is a good institution or set of rules aligns what's in your personal interest with what is in society's interest. The rule incentivizes you to create value and new ideas and new things. That doesn't just benefit you, it benefits everybody else. Number three, trade-offs are everywhere. There's no such thing as a free lunch. You cannot get a good thing without sacrificing something to get it. People don't like to hear that, but there is no way to have what you want without giving something up. And that's true in economics. It's also true in other areas of your life. Number four is thinking on the margin. Thinking on the margin means that most decisions are not all or nothing. So the simple example is pizza. If you decide you'd like some pizza, it's not a choice between zero pizza and a whole huge pizza. You can choose to have slice number one and stop, slice number two and stop, etc. So in economics, these what we call marginal decisions are actually where the important decisions are made. And to add a little extra to the discussion here, around 1900 in economics, we had what was called the marginal revolution. That was the change in economic thinking when economists realized that changes on the margin are actually where the real decisions get made. And this is more consequential than it sounds, because once you move to a world where changes are marginal, that's a world where you can use mathematical tools like calculus. Calculus is the study of changes on the margin. Now, we're not going to use calculus in this course, but it's important to realize that there is an economic mathematical basis for theorizing on the margin. Number five is the power of trade. Trade makes people better off and societies better off, and the simple reason is that all productivity arises from specialization, and we'll talk about that later. Idea number six is that wealth and economic growth are important and, on the whole, good things. If you are not a prosperous society, your standard of living is low, and even non-economic values like the environment are better served when you live in a rich country than when you live in a poor country. If you don't have enough to eat, you cannot afford to worry about the environment. You're just trying to survive. Number 7 is that institutions matter, and institutions matter for the reason that good institutions align social and personal interest. Number 8, economic booms and busts cannot be avoided but can be moderated. An economic boom and bust is what we call the business cycle, and we will get to this topic toward the end of the course. And throughout history, societies have had booms and busts, and there are reasons why. We'll get to that. Number 9, inflation is caused by increases in the supply of money. Now, inflation is actually a complex phenomenon, but you cannot have high and continuing inflation without the money supply increasing. Too much money chasing too few goods. Number 10, central banking is a hard job. Number 10 needs some explanation. Central banking refers to in the case of the United States, the Federal Reserve System. And the Federal Reserve System prints the money that we use. It also manages things affecting financial decision making. And it's difficult for the central bank to know what to do because nobody can predict the future. And there are also strong political forces that attempt to push the central bank in one direction or another. For example, actions by the central bank can cause lower interest rates, which is a good thing if you are running for election. So central banking has some challenges to it. I should also add one last observation. Central banking is hard partly because we just don't understand a lot about how the macro economy works. By the way, I am not presenting you with all the slides that come with the textbook. Otherwise, we'd be going through 30 PowerPoint slides, and I don't want to do that. Two important concepts in economics are opportunity cost and scarcity. Opportunity cost means that the true cost of a choice is the value of what you have given up. So a simple example, if you see that there's a sale on a gallon of milk and you can save 50 cents by driving 5 miles out of your way, then the true cost of the milk is not the price at the checkout. The true cost of buying that gallon of milk is also the time and fuel that you use up trying to get to the supermarket. So opportunity cost means you have to look at everything that is a cost, including time, when you make a choice. Scarcity simply means that there isn't enough of some resource to go around. And most of the time, we live in a world of scarcity. We will be referring to some of the ideas of Adam Smith, the original economist, the founder of the field of economics, as a specific independent discipline. Although I should say back in his day, it was called political economy. So here's one of Adam Smith's big ideas. It's not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their regard to their own interest. And this is a more profound observation than it first appears. Because what he is saying is that when it comes to the commercial world, buying and selling, going to the supermarket, economic considerations dominate. Now, in different situations, economics may not be the determining factor, but when you are in the marketplace, it's straightforward. the seller of an object or product is looking to their self-interest, and you as a buyer are looking to your self-interest, and there is nothing wrong with that. The way that you can reconcile each person's interest is by arriving at an agreement to buy and sell the product at an agreed upon price, and this contract is supported and sustained by property law, rule of law. One of the objections to the idea that prosperity matters is the counter-argument that people care a lot more about things beyond material well-being, and that is true. So let's look at some actual data about whether that is true or not. And if you plot reported life satisfaction with GDP per capita, gross domestic product per capita, or standard of living per capita, you find a positive correlation. That reinforces the point that on the whole, everything else equal, people have more life satisfaction if they live in a prosperous country than if they live in a poor country. And it's not hard to understand why. A rich country can afford to have a cleaner environment. A rich country or prosperous country can afford to have health care. Now, it's not a perfect correlation. Let's be clear. Things like distribution of income do matter. You can have a prosperous country, but only a few rich people get most of the benefit. So it's not a perfect correlation. The final slide here says, that the basic principles of economics apply to all countries. So things like incentives matter, and trade-offs are everywhere. It doesn't matter what social or economic system you have. These concepts transfer. Economics is practical. It links to your everyday life, job, personal finances, employment. And economics also gives us ideas about how to make the world a better place. And that will do it for the slides for the first chapter.